I was the filthy rich, ridiculously evil cannon fodder in a sickly sweet romance novel. My sole purpose? To forcefully tie the female lead to me with my infinite wealth, keeping the star-crossed lovers apart. But plot twist, the female lead just reincarnated. And guess what? So did I. Except this time my brain is actually functioning. I had just whipped out my limitless black card, about to casually sponsor Chloe's college tuition, when the green-as-grass teenager suddenly turned ice-cold. Golden text started scrolling across my vision like a chaotic live chat stream. Oh, I'm Guide, a female lead has responded. Back to the starting point. This time she can finally make up for her past regrets and be with her childhood sweetheart. If it weren't for that rich villain and his stinking money getting in the way, they wouldn't have missed out on a lifetime of happiness. I looked up and met Chloe's freezing glare. Yet, the moment her eyes shifted to her childhood sweetheart, they grew inexplicably red and teary. Wow. The female lead really did reincarnate. She had returned to her 18-year-old self penniless, with nothing but the wind blowing through her empty pockets. As she stood a bit closer to me, I could clearly feel how her aura had changed. It was that specific, arrogant elegance nurtured by years of burning through massive amounts of cash. There was absolutely no way that kind of vibe belonged to an innocent, struggling fret. She looked at the black card in my hand with absolute disgust. Her voice was as cold as a freezer aisle. I told you. I can handle my own tuition. I don't need you using your money to trample on my dignity. Having delivered her dramatic line, she completely bypassed me and dove straight into the arms of Ethan, who was currently glaring at me like I was a supervillain. Her fingers dug into his shirt, holding onto him like a lost treasure she had finally found again. Ethan, after everything I've been through, I finally realized that the person I love most in this world is you. A collective gasp echoed around the room. The golden text floating before my eyes thickened into a frenzy. Yes, queen behavior. First lesson after reincarnating. Confess to the childhood sweetheart. Exactly. No more dragging things out. The evil rich guy is totally dumbfounded now. Haha. In her past life she only took his black card and dated him for the tuition. Now that she's reborn, no amount of money will work. I rubbed my eyes, staring at the floating holographic chat that was piecing together the ridiculous truth. So, I'm the villainous second male lead they were talking about. The arrogant rich kid who used his fortune to force the female lead into a relationship. The Chloe standing in front of me had lived a whole life already. In her past life, the moment she stepped into college, it was love at first sight for me. Knowing she couldn't afford tuition, I eagerly whipped out my black card, offering to cover all her expenses for 4 years in exchange for her being my girlfriend. Chloe hesitated for a long time, but ultimately accepted the card in humiliation, burying her longtime crush for her childhood sweetheart deep in her heart. She blamed me for tearing her and Ethan apart. She hated that I was an arrogant rich boy who didn't know how to cherish people. With her inferiority complex and sensitivity, she constantly felt lower in the relationship, believing she had lost all her dignity. Yet, she perfectly adapted to the luxurious lifestyle of the ultra-rich and absolutely refused to let go of me, her purse my ATM. 2 years after graduation, when news of Ethan's wedding arrived, her suppressed true love exploded. Dressed in her own wedding gown, burning with manic desperation, she drove like a maniac to crash his wedding. The result? She got distracted, crashed into a truck, and died on the spot. Now, having reincarnated, the very first thing she did was confess the love she never got to say in her past life. I smirked. The peanut gallery in the chat was right about one thing. I am incredibly arrogant. But let's be real here. According to them, Chloe took insane amounts of my money. After graduation, I even used my connections to open a company for her, pulling her into high society. If I'm paying for all that, shouldn't she treat me like a king? Be a little obedient? Isn't that the bare minimum of a transaction? Did she expect me to crown her empress, serve her breakfast in bed, and walk on eggshells around her? Please. I let out a cold laugh, gracefully turned around, and tossed the black card straight into the hands of a random stunning girl walking past. Chloe, who said I wanted to sponsor your tuition? I smoothly pivoted to the new girl. The person I want to give this to is clearly her. Hi cutie, wanna be my girlfriend? The live chat instantly exploded. Wait, what? Am I seeing things? Why did he give the black card to someone else? It's useless. The villain only has the female lead in his heart. He's just playing hard to get. Our female lead won't fall for this trap. Chloe's body went completely rigid. Having just respawned, her eyes, which were previously filled with absolute certainty, were now swirling with disbelief and panic. It seemed she hadn't quite realized that the storyline had already derailed. But with her true love right in front of her, the trauma of her recent death and the joy of rebirth scrambled her brain, leaving her no time to overthink it. I enthusiastically invited the beautiful girl who just caught my black card out to eat. It was the beginning of the semester, and I didn't know many faces. As for Chloe, I had merely heard some classmates whispering that she couldn't gather enough for tuition. So my rich boy syndrome flared up and I pulled out the card to ask her out. Honestly, her innocent damsel in distress face was just my type, making me act impulsively. Maybe in the past life I truly loved Chloe, but in this life, that romance was squashed before it even sprouted. I have an absurd amount of money. I'm the sole heir of the Sebastian family empire, the wealthiest family around. I've never suffered a day in my life. Why on earth would I hang myself on one crooked tree? Dating is just dating. Isn't the girl currently holding my card just as pretty, if not more? I picked the most ridiculously expensive high-end restaurant near the campus. I flipped through the menu, frowned, and tossed it to the waiter. Just bring out all your signature dishes, one of each. The waiter practically skipped away in joy. Suddenly, the restaurant door swung open, drawing everyone's attention. I turned to look. It was the reincarnated female led, arm in arm with her desperately beloved childhood sweetheart. I have to admit the past life's wealth had trained Chloe well. From her dining etiquette to her posture, she was flawless, radiating the aura of a high society lady. Occasionally she'd shoot glares in my direction, her eyes brimming with poorly disguised contempt and annoyance. She was 100% convinced I followed her here to harass her. Absolutely certain I couldn't let her go. She probably thought my dining with another girl was a cheap trick to make her jealous. Chloe straightened her back, elegantly ordered 7 or 8 signature dishes, and then looked deeply into Ethan's eyes. The food here is just okay. Bear with it for today. When I have time, I'll definitely take you to eat the most premium ingredients flown in daily, and I'll buy you the latest designer clothes for this season. Ethan looked like he had just been hit in the face with a winning lottery ticket. He was so happy he almost passed out. He shot me a smug look and raised his voice. Chloe, today is our first official day together. I have a gift I prepared for a very long time for you. He looked incredibly proud of himself. But the floating chat had the real tea. Chloe and Ethan were childhood sweethearts, just waiting to get into the same college to officially start dating. When I had pulled out the black card earlier, Ethan had gritted his teeth, looking at me like I was a homewrecker. Wait a minute. In the past life, when Chloe agreed to be my girlfriend, did she ever mention Ethan existed? Nope. Ethan mysteriously pulled out a shabby little box. Chloe's face lit up with extreme excitement. The chat went wild. OMD, the first gift after reincarnation. So sweet. This is moving too fast. I can't keep up. What's in the box? I remember Sebastian gave her $1 million necklace. The male lead might be broke, but his gift is full of heart. The box landed in her palm. It weighed absolutely nothing. Full of anticipation, Chloe opened it. Inside lay a ring woven out of literal weeds. Ethan spoke passionately. Chloe, I spent all summer weaving this grass ring, just waiting for us to get into college so I could give it to you. Every blade of grass represents me saying, I love you. Do you like it? The hyperactive chat box suddenly went dead silent. If I didn't know Chloe had reincarnated, I might have thought she'd love it. To an 18-year-old Chloe, a grass ring might be a priceless token of innocent affection. But beneath that youthful exterior was the soul of a 24-year-old woman, a 24-year-old who was used to eating caviar like it was oatmeal, who treated diamonds and luxury bags like spare change. Heck, just a few hours before she died, that Chloe was driving a Maybach from my garage. The contrast between premium leather steering wheels and a scratchy weed ring must have been quite the reality check. I smirked, reaching into my pocket to pull out a dazzling diamond necklace, the newest seasonal piece I casually bought while walking past a luxury boutique earlier today. Since this beautiful girl across from me was now officially my girlfriend, I couldn't be cheap. I gently slid the exquisite velvet box toward her. Babe, today is our first official day together, too. Here's a little welcome gift. See if you like it. The chat erupted. No way. Wasn't that necklace given to the female lead in the past life? Why is he giving it to a random extra? Trust me, he's just trying to make the female lead jealous. He won't keep this up for long. He's totally panicking inside. The diamonds sparkled blindingly. The lead, who hadn't even recovered from the shock of the black card, was hit by a second wave of disbelief. Her hands trembled as she reached for the necklace, only to be interrupted by a loud yell from Chloe. Don't touch that. That is clearly mine. She snapped her mouth shut before she could finish the sentence. I knew exactly what she almost said. In her past life, she wore that necklace for 6 years. She adored it. Every night, before bed, she'd carefully take it off, wipe it down, and place it in its box. But this is a different lifetime. Now that she has her precious sweetheart by her side, surely she has no interest in such vulgar material things, right? Ethan's face turned dark. He glared at me. So what if you have money? You reek of capitalism. A generic necklace with zero creativity? How does it compare to something I made with my own 2 hands? Riot Chloe. Chloe finally snapped back to reality, forcing a painful, stiff smile. You're absolutely right, Ethan. She tried to pull herself together, picking up her chopsticks to feed her beloved boyfriend some fish. Suddenly, a phone rang. It was a cheap, knockoff phone with a terrible buzzing speaker. Even from a distance I could hear it perfectly. An icy female voice came from the other end. Miss Chloe, your mother's hospital bills are overdue. You need to make a payment immediately. Chloe's face instantly drained of color. The chat started panicking. Oh snap, I forgot the female lead's mom is critically ill and needs money. I remember in the past life, the rich villain just tossed $1 million at the hospital, and the surgery went perfectly. Oh god. Please don't let him use her mom to force her to date him again. Why won't he leave her alone? I suddenly remembered that before I pulled out the black card today, some classmates were gossiping that Chloe's mom had cancer, plunging her family into massive debt. I quickly looked at Violet. Hey, no one in your family is critically ill, right? And no, not at all, she stammered. Chloe stood up, looking pale as a ghost, ready to rush to the hospital, but the waiter stopped her. Excuse me, miss, you haven't paid the bill yet. A few suppressed giggles echoed around the room. In her past life, relying on the Sebastian family name, no matter which ultra-high-end restaurant she walked into, the Odas would practically bow and say, "No rush on the bill, Miss Chloe. We'll put it on your tab." She had been reborn for less than a day. She clearly hadn't adjusted her habits. The waiter printed the receipt, $12.80. In her past life, that amount wouldn't even cover half a bottle of the wine she usually drank. Chloe instinctively reached into her pocket for her black card. When her fingers met empty air, she jolted, breaking into a cold sweat. Right. She was 18 again. Young, naive, extremely broke. Let alone $180, she probably didn't even have $80. The waiter maintained a professional smile. Gritting her teeth, Chloe awkwardly turned to Ethan. Ethan, could you front the bill for this meal? I'll pay you back later. Ethan immediately went on the defensive. Chloe, my monthly living allowance is only $15. One meal is $12.80. How am I supposed to survive the rest of the month? Don't worry, I have a way to make money. What way? Plus, you said you were treating. Why am I paying? Ethan grumbled, refusing to pull out his wallet. The true love couple, who had confessed to each other less than an hour ago, had just hit their very first romantic roadblock. I casually handed my card to the waiter to pay for my own table. Chloe turned her head away in disgust, as if she expected me to leap over and claim her leg like a leech. Having reincarnated, she clearly wanted absolutely nothing to do with an arrogant rich boy like me. In her eyes, I had humiliated her with money. She spoke with deep loathing in her voice. I've told you so many times, stay away from me. I hate how clingy you are, and I hate you trying to step between me and Ethan. Neither I nor my mother need your filthy money. I was honestly amazed by her sheer audacity. Sure, according to the chat, I loved her to death in the past life, but in this life we hadn't even dated for a single day. The chat popped up right on cue. Wait, when he heard she couldn't pay tuition, he just took out the card. Before he could even ask her to be his girlfriend, she already confessed to Ethan. They literally haven't even had a conversation. The one who hated me in the past life was her, but the one who couldn't detach from the past life was also her. I let out a sarcastic chuckle. I just called the waiter to pay my own bill. Are you hallucinating, Chloe? Why are you so obsessed with the idea that I'm chasing you? Chloe's face turned stark white. Only then did it finally dawn on her. In this lifetime, we were currently nothing more than strangers. The 6 years of entanglement hadn't happened. Realizing this, she stumbled back a step. The chat panicked again. What's going on? Why isn't the villain throwing money to cure her mom? If he doesn't pay, where is she going to get that kind of cash? All known. Her mom was the only person who comforted her during those 6 years of humiliation. Reading the comments scrolling by, my face darkened. They called my throwing money at her for 6 years a life of humiliation, a traumatic memory. In my past life, after I paid to save her mother, what did I get in return? The mother and daughter scheming behind my back. Chloe, men are unreliable. Once you marry into the Sebastian family, secure the bag. Don't let that Sebastian boy have a single dime to his name. You're beautiful and educated. Boys are lining up for you. If the Sebastian family doesn't give us an $8 million dowry, we are not agreeing to the wedding. And Chloe had just nodded in humiliation. Too bad the massive Sebastian family fortune wasn't something an outsider like her could just casually grab. All she got was the pocket change I let slip through my fingers. If she was good, she got a little. If she threw a tantrum, she got nothing. I might be a spoiled rich kid, but I wasn't stupid enough to hand my family's entire legacy over to a poor little white lotus from the slums. Towards the Sebastian wealth, Chloe was simultaneously greedy and utterly powerless. Violet couldn't hold back anymore. Chloe, you're obviously the one obsessing over Sebastian. He doesn't even care about you. Yet you're acting like you're being oppressed and humiliated. It's hilarious. Chloe's expression turned vicious. A country bumpkin like you thinks you have the right to speak to me in that tone. Do you even know who I am? Her voice carried an arrogant edge, a byproduct of being pampered by wealth in her past life. After I opened a company for her, everyone sucked up to her, calling her CEO Chloe. She had started to believe her own hype. She just hadn't realized that the clothes she was currently wearing had been washed until they were faded, looking far worse than Violet's. I raised an eyebrow and slowly clapped. My girl makes a great point. Violet looked at me, claimed the victim perfectly. I scanned her outfit, normal, slightly cheap clothes. She did kind of look like a country bumpkin. I frowned, putting on my best extravagant young master persona. I wouldn't even wear clothes this cheap if you gave them to me, I declared. Violet, we are going to the luxury mall right now. Do not step out of those doors unless we spent at least 100 grand. Carrying massive shopping bags out of the mall, Violet was still in a state of sheer shock. Her brain had seemingly left the chat. I lazily lit a cigarette, figuratively speaking. My girlfriend obviously needs to wear the best. As for the money I threw at Chloe in my past life, in this life she isn't getting a single penny. The holographic chat was busy discussing Chloe's current misery. She was being roasted alive, my financial stress, tuition, living expenses, her mother's medical bills. If her only regret in her past life was missing out on Ethan, well, congratulations. By fixing that one regret, she just unlocked 20 new ones. On the way back to the dorms, I cheerfully read the chat. Girl, stop looking for the villain. You'll get trapped by him for years. Just enjoy your sweet romance with the male lead. Poor female lead. Will she have to go back to the villain after all? Who can stand the villain's terrible temper anyway? Those reincarnating Minchie still can't escape his evil clutches. Reading through the comments, I arrived at the dorms. And sure enough, there was Chloe's lonely, proud silhouette waiting by the entrance. The moment she saw me, she forced a tragic smile, acting as if she was resigning to a dark fate. Sebastian, I lost. I still can't escape your obsession. Fine. As long as you give me the black card and tone down your arrogant temper a bit, I'll agree to be your girlfriend. As she spoke, her shoulders trembled slightly, as if she were making the ultimate sacrifice, granting me an enormous favor. Her face clearly displayed deep humiliation and shame. Wow. Her dignity sure is expensive, and she actually thought she could trade it for my limitless black card. I laughed so hard I almost caught a karma penalty. I've never seen someone beg for food with such a massive ego. I couldn't help but remind her, "Excuse me, Miss Chloe, do we even know each other?" Chloe let out a hollow laugh. Sebastian, no one understands you better than I do. Do you really think playing hard to get will make me look at you differently? Look, just give me the card. My mom is waiting at the hospital. She spoke with absolute certainty, fully convinced I would cater to her every whim in the past life. I stayed with her for 6 years. If it wasn't for love, I wouldn't have lasted that long. She had seen me crazy in love, flaunting our relationship. As the one being pampered, she had always felt invincible. Her mom's hospital bills couldn't be delayed any longer. Violet stepped in front of me, effortlessly shattering Chloe's illusions. When exactly did Mr. Sebastian ever ask you to be his girlfriend? That last sentence struck Chloe like a bolt of lightning. She froze, stunned for a long time. Suddenly she remembered. The very first thing she did after reincarnating was confess to Ethan. I had never uttered the words "be my girlfriend" in this timeline. The toxic entanglement she remembered simply hadn't happened. But quickly, Chloe shook her head, directing her own internal movie. The 6 years of memories were etched into her soul. How could she possibly believe I didn't love her? She let out a heavy sigh, her voice laced with unconcealed exhaustion. Fine, Sebastian. I admit my confessing to Ethan made you upset, but my mom really can't wait anymore. Give me the card, and I won't hold the past against you. Seeing Chloe looking so lost and willing to compromise, the chat panicked. The female lead worked so hard to respond. Why is she tangling with the villain again? Is she going to start another 6 years of humiliation? But without the villain, she's just a broke college student. Even if she wants to start a business, she has zero capital. Where is she going to get money? I looked at Chloe, answering both her and the chat simultaneously. If you don't have money, figure it out yourself, or go post a job listing and see who's willing to pay a premium for a girlfriend. My words pierced her inflated ego. For a whole month, she didn't show her face again. I clearly remember the day she left, grinding her teeth. You have never tried to fix your arrogant rich boy temper. You're bossy and unreasonable. To punish you, just suffer by yourself. Don't even dream of seeing me for the next month. The reward was so sudden I thought I was dreaming. In a huge university, accidentally bumping into someone from a different major is incredibly rare. With Chloe out of the picture, Violet and I spent a lot more time together. She would quietly wait outside my dorm to walk to class together, and even volunteered to fetch hot water and buy me meals. My roommate, Percy the loyal bro, aggressively intervened. Young master, young madam, please just focus on your romance. Leave the heavy lifting to this humble servant. Percy was an orphan who clawed his way into college. On the first day of school, I told him I'd pay him $200 every time he fetched water and bought me food. He excitedly called me dad on the spot. For 3 days, he aggressively hoarded all the chores. I had long tossed Chloe to the back of my mind. However, the chat would occasionally broadcast leave updates on her struggle for survival. She was running around trying to borrow money to plug the endless holes in her finances. But how many rich college students are there? It was a drop in the bucket. Penniless. She even had to rely on Ethan for meals. The true love couple from the past life, now spending every day together, slowly began to crack under pressure to make money. Chloe, who had never worked a day in her life, was forced to get a part-time job. I thought I'd never see her again, yet when I took Violet to the campus cafeteria, we ran straight into her. Normally, I only ate here on weekends. Chloe worked part-time where meals were provided from Monday to Friday, and only stayed on campus on weekends. We were like two parallel lines meant to never cross. But this weekend, a miracle happened. Instead of working outside, Chloe was sitting stiffly in the cafeteria. Her aura had shifted again. Right after reincarnating, she still carried that expensive elegance. Now, she just looked exhausted and anxious. She had lost weight, her brow perpetually furrowed. Violet and I walked in holding hands just in time to see Ethan mysteriously and excitedly place a food tray in front of Chloe. I managed to grab the best dish today. Try. And excitedly place a food tray in front of Chloe. I managed to grab the best dish today. Try. It was a $7 greasy, land cafeteria combo meal. I clearly saw a flash of pure disgust across Chloe's face. The chat went wild. How could she swallow that, right? In her past life, she ate gourmet seafood every day. How can she survive this after reincarnating? And look at her clothes. They cost like $10. Before, everything was designer. But all those things were given to her by the villain. Without him, this is how she's supposed to live. At that last comment, the chat went dead silent. No one dared to argue. The chat had previously mentioned that in her past life, Chloe never ate at the cafeteria once. We either ate at fancy restaurants or had my private chef deliver beautifully plated sashimi to campus. Her wardrobe was updated weekly with designer brands. She was pampered like a princess, and quickly got used to that luxurious life. To suddenly downgrade to a mushy cafeteria meal? Of course she couldn't stomach it. The cheap clothes probably made her skin itch too. After hesitating for a long time, Chloe put down her chopsticks and hesitantly asked Ethan, "Ethan, can you do me a favor? Can you lend me $300,000? Ethan, who was currently chewing on a piece of tofu, almost choked. He instinctively yelled, "What did you say? You want me to lend you $300,000? You eat my food, drink my water, and you still haven't paid me back for that $1,280 meal from half a month ago. Now you have the nerve to ask for $300,000? Countless glaring eyes instantly zeroed in on Chloe. Even I winced. The luxury of her past life had genuinely ruined her perception of reality. Ethan's family was just as average as hers. How was a college student supposed to summon $300,000? Ethan was furious, dropping all terms of endearment. Do you realize my parents don't even make $100,000 a year? How dare you ask for that much? You use my meal card every day, complain the food is worse than flowing premium ingredients, and now you're completely broke. Are you dreaming about premium food? Chloe's face burned bright red. She couldn't hold back her resentment. I'm only in this situation because of you. I used to drink wine that cost tens of thousands a bottle. Every meal was at least $1,000. Everyone who saw me respectfully called me CEO, Chloe. Ethan looked like he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. Chloe, do you think I met you yesterday? You can't even pay tuition, yet you're daydreaming about being a billionaire's wife eating fancy food. Are you insane? Laughter erupted around them. This was the true wake-up call, shattering Chloe's luxurious past life dreams. She had been reborn for a month, chosen a completely different path, and this was the result. The chat. What the heck? I came here to watch a sweet campus romance. Why are they arguing every single day? Well, without money, how are you gonna have a sweet romance? Frustrated, Chloe looked toward the door and suddenly spotted me. She instantly straightened her back, her furrowed brows smoothing out as she put on a confident smile, her eyes full of expectation. I was busy admiring my new watch as I walked past her. This one cost over $300,000, but the dial's shine was a bit lacking. Gotta pick a better one next time. I lazily glanced at the cafeteria food, frowned in disgust, and called out, "Violet, let's go eat off campus." Violet nodded eagerly. I walked right past Chloe without a second glance. Her confident smile instantly vanished. As I walked away, she abandoned Ethan and chased after me, yelling, "Sebastian, why are you?" Her words got caught in her throat when she saw the Maybach parked outside. It was parked obnoxiously right on the path to the cafeteria. Judges were staring in awe, whispering about the beautiful car, or complaining about my rich kid arrogance. Chloe let out a relieved laugh. "So, you were trying to surprise me, but I don't like being this flashy. Don't do this next time, okay?" The chat? I remember in the past life, the female lead drove this exact car to find the male lead and died. But in the past life, this car was a graduation gift. Why did he bring it out so early this time? Our female lead belongs to the male lead. She won't be swayed by a luxury car. Get ready for the ultimate face-slapping moment. Chloe clearly loved this car. In her past life, she had driven it around the city countless times, drawing envious stares. Instinctively, she reached for the door handle. My driver, Uncle Victor, scolded her from the driver's seat. This car was gifted to Miss Violet by the young master. "What do you think you are trying to climb in?" Chloe's hand froze midair as if she had been electrocuted. The elegant aura she had lost over the last month briefly returned to her eyes. "Uncle Victor, this car is clearly mine. Have you lost your memory?" she said, her voice a mix of authority and anger. In the past life, it was hers. But in this life, I sneered, quickly opening the door, pulling Violet inside and slamming it shut. Chloe barely pulled her hand back in time to avoid getting her fingers crushed. I rolled down the window and looked her up and down. "Chloe, you should really fix your habit of trying to claim other people's property. I bought this car for my girlfriend. What does it have to do with you?" In Chloe's eyes, I was forever the arrogant rich kid, so of course my words were ruthless and disrespectful. The joy that had just bubbled up in her chest was completely shattered. She stared at me. She stared at me. Wasn't this supposed to be for me? I drove it for 2 whole years. Her voice was quiet, but I heard it perfectly. Been reincarnated this long and still dreaming about the past life? Her previous disgust for me had now become an illusion. A reflection of the moon in the water she could never grasp again. The chat was also stunned. What's happening? The villain really doesn't seem to love the female lead at all. She reincarnated for nothing. I thought we'd see a sweet romance, but they've argued 15 times in half a month. I thought we'd see her slap the villain's face, but she's the one getting slapped. Wait, who said the rich villain wouldn't leave her alone? It looks like she's the one stalking him. I closed the chat. I'm the heir of the Sebastian family, born with a silver spoon. Why would I simp over some average girl? If Chloe felt her biggest regret in her past life was not confessing to Ethan, well, in this life she can spend all her time making up for that regret. I told Victor to step on the gas. We zoomed away. From the rearview mirror I saw Ethan grabbing Chloe by the collar, screaming at her, while she just stood there staring blankly at my exhaust fumes. Completely ignoring his rage, pulling my gaze away, I complained to Uncle Victor. "Driving this into campus is too flashy. Do it a few more times and the dean is going to call me into his office?" Victor nodded quickly. "Yes, young master, next time I'll wait at the gates. By the way, since you don't have a real girlfriend yet, maybe tonight you should consider the arranged marriage with the Vu family that the master mentioned." Sitting in the VIP room of a high-end bar, I stared blankly at Violet sitting across from me. On the way here, I had impatiently rejected the idea of an arranged marriage with a stranger. Uncle Victor had looked confused. "A stranger? Young master, you and Miss Violet have been dating for a while now." When he said that, Violet had shrunk into the back seat like a scared little quail. In our social circle, arranged marriages are just business plans. Love has nothing to do with it. It's about tying 2 families together for mutual profit and risk management. I pulled up WhatsApp. A message from my dad was sitting right there. "Good boy. Seeing you and the Vu family's daughter getting along so well puts my mind at ease. If you two click, let's get you engaged early." At this moment, I truly felt like a clueless, stereotypical playboy. Violet, pale-face, frantically explained, "Sebastian, I swear I only dressed in cheap clothes because I heard you wanted to date a poor student, but I didn't even have to do anything. The moment I found you in the crowd, you just shoved a black card into my hands and asked me out. I didn't expect happiness to come so easily." She admitted she enrolled in the same college just to confess her long-hidden feelings for me. She just didn't expect me to basically try and become her sugar daddy first. The process was a bit weird, but the result was a win. I sighed. "So you're actually loaded, and you just came to scam me out of a black card?" She waved her hands defensively. "No, I haven't spent a dime on that card. When you gave it to me you didn't even tell me the pin. How was I supposed to use it? I stared at her. I didn't tell you the pin? So, from start to finish? I was the one spending the Vu family heiress's money. I was the sugar baby being kept. The absolute embarrassment. I subtly used 2 fingers to retrieve my black card, wishing I could disappear into the sofa cushions. I genuinely debated whether I should yield an extra 3% profit to the Evu family, just to save whatever dignity I had left. The chat was exploding again. She reincarnated just for everything to change this much. I remember the arranged marriage happened in the past life too, but didn't Sebastian reject it, saying he had a girlfriend? I thought the villain loved the female lead. Who's confused here? In this life, he clearly never liked her. Suddenly, a waitress pushed open the VIP room door carrying a tray of drinks, shattering the awkward silence. We locked eyes. The tray hit the floor, drinks spilling everywhere. First came shock, then humiliated fury. Sebastian, why are you in here alone with her? Chloe, wearing a tight waitress uniform, stood in the doorway. So this was the part-time job the chat said she found. Her face was pale green with anger. Her eyes darted between Violet and me before she stormed over and grabbed my wrist. Why are you with her? I shook off her hand. This is my fiancé. If I'm not with her, should I be with you? The Sebastian and Vu families already know we're together. Everyone's thrilled. Chloe was struck dizzy by the word fiancé. The dim lighting of the bar couldn't hide her ghostly pale face. After a long moment, she let out a drained, bitter laugh. Sebastian, I know you're only with her to make me jealous. I reincarnated, but I still have to be tangled up with you. She turned her face away, looking immensely humiliated. You win. You actually won. I agreed to be your girlfriend. Hold up, I interrupted. I didn't ask you anything. Why are you shamelessly agreeing to things I didn't offer? Chloe closed her eyes, seemingly making a massive decision, and blurted it out. Do you know I was reincarnated? In the past life, you gave me a black card and made me your girlfriend. You gave my mom $1 million for surgery. You even gave me that Maybach. We were together for 6 years. You had a terrible temper, but I always endured it. Even though I missed Ethan in my past life, this reincarnation made me realize my true feelings. I still love you. Chloe probably didn't realize that her voice carried a hint of nostalgia for the wealth she once had, masquerading as love. The chat popped up. Wow, what a highly profitable realization of true love. Rich boy, look at me instead. I'm not picky about gender. After living a miserable life, she suddenly remembers the perks of the rich villain from her past life. Wait. I just realized the villain was super rational. Even though he loved her and helped her grow, he never foolishly married her or handed over his core assets. In this life, the second she confessed to someone else, he immediately dropped her. No looking back, that last comment made everything click. So that was Chloe's biggest grudge in her past life. It wasn't just that I didn't marry her. It was that I didn't hand the entire Sebastian family fortune over to her on a silver platter. In her mind, I should have been a loyal simp, presenting my family's wealth with both hands, becoming the perfect submissive husband so she could rule the house. I might play the fool, but I'm not actually stupid. A proper heiress from a matched family wouldn't even dare to scheme for my assets. Yet Chloe treated it like it was already in her pocket. When she couldn't get it, she hated me to the bone. Not even I dared to dream about stealing my dad's money yet. The atmosphere in the room was heavy. Viola hesitantly stood up. Look, I know the golden standard for a female lead is having a terminally ill mother, a brother in school, and a broken family. But I didn't know the bar had been raised to include supernatural powers too. She turned to me, looking pitiful. Sebastian, I don't have a tragic backstory. My parents are perfectly healthy. My brother is studying abroad normally, and I didn't reincarnate. I have no supernatural buffs. Do I still have a shot at being the main character? Absolutely. I earnestly held her hand. The job is yours. Eventually, Chloe was dragged away by security. Before she was thrown out, she screamed, Sebastian, the person you love most is me. You shouldn't be with anyone else. In our past life, we were really together. After finalizing the arranged marriage, I comfortably pulled Violette the Vu family into my arms. Fiancé, I'll be relying on you to be my sugar daddy from now on. Our families immediately threw us an engagement party. My dad personally handled my study abroad paperwork for a finance degree. Before I boarded the plane, he patted my shoulder, pretending to be emotional. Carden don de mai. Cheridamus I doranzid de war. Zion, now that you're engaged, you can't just mess around at a local college anymore. Go abroad. Study hard. Master finance. The Sebastian Empire is depending on you. I tested the waters. Dad, can you give me some startup capital? Just a small gold of 100 million would do? Yep. I can't even dream of touching my dad's money yet, let alone Chloe. On the day I left, Percy howled like a wounded wolf. On the day I left, Percy howled like a wounded wolf. Young master, what am I gonna do without you? I was planning to serve you and the young madam until graduation. I shoved a bank card into his hand. I paid off your tuition. There's some living expenses in there too. Stop wearing ragged clothes, you're making me look bad, Percy sniffled. Young master, I really can't bear to see you go. I'll pay you back when I graduate. I'll miss you every single day. Stop fake crying, your laugh is hurting my ears, I said, boarding the plane. The chat, which had been quiet, started scrolling wildly again. Chloe is going crazy trying to find Sebastian. She's looking for her ATM or look, she remembers his old phone number and is trying to call him. I glanced down at my phone. I was going abroad, so naturally I changed my number. Chloe stood anxiously outside my old dorm building. For days, she had been buried under financial sinkholes. The hospital couldn't delay her mother's bills any longer, desperata. She decided to initiate contact and borrow money from me, assuming I would use the opportunity to force her to date me. After all, in her past life, when I found out she couldn't afford tuition, I had smirked and pulled out the black card. Chloe, I can cover your tuition and living expenses, but you have to agree to be my girlfriend. Deal? If I made that demand now, she would agree without a second of hesitation. But she waited for days and never saw me. Finally, Percy got annoyed and told her to stop waiting. The young master got engaged to Miss Du Violet and flew out of the country the very next day. He's not coming back. The news struck Chloe like a physical blow. Engaged? Studying abroad? In her past life, she had never heard of an engagement, and studying abroad was just an empty rumor. They had spent 6 full years together, maturing through college side by side. All she did was confess to Ethan on day 1 of her reincarnation. How could this life be so vastly different from the last? Trembling, Chloe dialed the number she knew by heart. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. She stood frozen. The number was disconnected. She checked the digits perfectly correct. A number burned into her brain over 6 years was now a dead line. As she stood there in a daze, Ethan forcefully shoved her from behind. Chloe, pay up. That $1280 you owe me from half a month ago. The childhood sweetheart standing before her was petty and bitter, completely devoid of the gentle warmth from her past life. Chloe rubbed her temples exhaustedly. If she felt a sliver of joy with Ethan on day 1, a month of brutal reality had crushed it entirely. The only person left in her heart now was me. She only had a little over $1,000 on her wages from the bar. It wasn't even enough for her mom's meds. Just as she was about to say, "Give me a few more days," another girl suddenly pointed at her and yelled, "You shameless leech! Pay my boyfriend back!" Chloe's head spun. I had a fiancé, and now Ethan had a girlfriend too. Life was hitting the fast-forward button, spinning out of control. She looked at the girl and miraculously realized it was the exact same girl Ethan had married in her past life. Because Ethan was too broke to go on dates with Chloe, he had ended up working a different part-time job and met his future wife 4 years early. Ironically, Chloe's reincarnation had inadvertently played matchmaker, accelerating both my and Ethan's destinies. Defeated, Chloe emptied her pockets, handing her last $1,000 to Ethan. He scoffed, wrapping an arm around his new girlfriend, and walked away. Her phone rang. It wasn't my number. Chloe disappointedly answered it. Her mother's aged voice came through. Chloe, the hospital is demanding money again. You need to figure something out. A wave of overwhelming annoyance ripped through her already fragile heart. The endless avalanche of problems since her rebirth made her want to scream. She snapped, yelling into the phone. If we don't have money, figure it out yourself. Other parents support their kids. Why do you keep bleeding me dry? Look at Sebastian's parents. They give him hundreds of thousands a month. What about you? The line went quiet, followed by muffled crying and endless nagging. I have such a miserable life, raising an ungrateful daughter. You haven't visited me in over a month, haven't given me a single cent. Chloe hung up. She rented a shared bike and pedaled furiously down the street, desperately comforting herself. Sebastian still loves me. He couldn't have just gotten engaged and left without saying goodbye. He must be punishing me for confessing to Ethan. I just need to find him, give him an out, say something sweet, and everything will go back to how it was in the past life. As long as I'm his girlfriend, I'll never have to worry about money again. She knew the Sebastian family mansion by heart. She had lived there for 2 years in her past life. She knew every blade of grass. But this time, the security guards coldly blocked her. This is a private residence. No trespassing. Chloe, mixing up her past and present lives in her panic, yelled, "I'm Sebastian's girlfriend. I lived here for 2 years. Don't you remember me?" The guard looked her up and down and sneered. "Before you try to gold dig, do some basic research. Our young master is engaged to Miss Violet, and they are both currently studying abroad." What girlfriend? Engaged. Abroad. Chloe's blood ran cold. I really did leave without a word. I didn't love her anymore. Her phone rang again. An unknown number. Her eyes lit up, hands trembling as she answered, only to hear the icy voice of a nurse. "Miss Chloe, your mother's medication has been stopped. You need to come pay the balance immediately." The years studying abroad flew by in a flash. Chloe was like a minor NPC in my life. She made some noise, then quietly vanished. But the chat would periodically update me on her tragic downfall, leeching off the sheer brilliance of my life. The sweetheart she pined for had ruthlessly dumped her, ending up with his past life wife early. Her mother passed away because they couldn't afford treatment, spending her final moments cursing her ungrateful, backstabbing daughter. Chloe was completely alone. From a pampered socialite who didn't let her hands touch spring water, she became a manual laborer, working 3 jobs at once, yet still drowning in debt. In her sophomore year, she dropped out of college, beginning a long, agonizing life of struggling at the bottom. While working herself to the bone, she still tried to ask around for news about me. Unfortunately, we were separated by half the globe. The cost of a round-trip ticket and half a year of living expenses abroad wasn't something a minimum-wage worker could save up for. 4 years later, on my first day back in the country, looking at the familiar skyline of the city, I got a call from Percy. "Boss, the university is organizing a class reunion. Are you coming?" Percy had completely shed his skinny, sunburnt past. He was now calm and professional, currently managing one of my subsidiary companies. When he saw me, he rushed over and gave me a massive hug. "Boss, I haven't seen you in years. Do you know how much I missed you?" Why the frown? "Tell your loyal servant, I'll handle it." I patted his shoulder. "We have operations abroad now. I need someone stationed there long term." Percy instantly lit up. What a coincidence. I happened to be the perfect candidate. I then remembered Percy was an orphan with no family ties. He was the perfect choice. With my biggest headache solved, I relaxed. I didn't know most of the people at the reunion. Percy was my only real friend from class. Just as the reunion was about to start, the door opened. Chloe walked in. She was in the same major but not the same class. Her sudden appearance surprised everyone. Curious eyes locked onto her. I almost didn't recognize her. Her current physical age was close to the age she died in her past life. The chat had mentioned that she never worked a day in her previous life, maintaining a refined, aristocratic elegance. It was incredibly hard to connect that image with the exhausted, weathered woman standing before me. The chat, which had been silent for ages, flared up one last time. Holy crap, I almost didn't recognize her. This isn't even female lad material anymore. Not even a side character, just a random extra. You can tell she's genuinely dirt poor. Rantinated for 6 years. Failed at every clumsy business attempt. Kept bragging about being CEO. Chloe, no wonder she's broke. And she's super picky about food and clothes, always muttering about how she used to eat premium seafood. I can't even imagine how miserable her life is. Probably living in a 200-square-foot shoebox, eating plain rice, looking out the window at the city lights and crying, right? Chloe had clearly tried to dress up, but the deep V wrinkle between her brows betrayed her chronic anxiety. Her cheap clothes lacked the vibrant energy of the designer pieces she wore in her past life. Her neck and wrists were completely bare, no sparkling jewelry. She barely dared to look at me, but she gathered all her courage to walk over, speaking softly. "Sebastian, I heard your class was having a reunion. I just wanted to come see you. Have you been doing well these past few years?" Since the room was full of strangers, I stood up, politely said my goodbyes to the group, walked right past Chloe, and left. Refusing to accept defeat, she chased after me. It was pouring rain outside the hotel. I stood by the curb under an umbrella. Chloe stood in the torrential rain, soaked to the bone like a drowned rat. She bit her lip a few times before speaking. Despite knowing the answer, she clung to a microscopic sliver of hope. "Sebastian, do you still love me?" I turned my head and gave her a polite, distant smile. "Miss Chloe, if you think about it carefully, we don't actually know each other. Where would this love you're looking for even come from? In this lifetime, you never took my black card. I never had any interactions with you. From beginning to end, we are complete strangers." As I delivered the final clear answer, a few lines of text appeared in the air, fading rapidly, a sign the system was shutting down forever. Honestly, the rich villain was never a blind simp. Even in the past life, he wasn't dumb enough to hand over his core assets. Do you guys think the villain can imagine how miserable Chloe's life is right now? Definitely. Thank God he didn't let her marry into his family. Chloe finally gets to live the life she was originally meant to live. The holographic chat vanished completely. Chloe's absolute despair was visible to the naked eye. She clutched her head in sheer agony. "It was my fault. The moment I reincarnated, before you even spoke to me, I personally severed our connection. Sebastian, in my past life, I called you my love for 6 years. How did it end up like this? How did I lose the most important person in my life? Sebastian. Did you know I always wanted to go abroad to find you? But for years I worked myself to death and still couldn't save enough for a plane ticket and living expenses. In my past life, that amount of money was just the price of one bottle of wine. Why? Why? Water streamed down her face. I couldn't tell if it was rain or tears. I knew her life as a laborer had been brutal. Her face already bore the haggard, weathered marks of someone beaten down by reality. Car headlights swept across the rain. A Maybach pulled up beside me. The door opened, and Violet stepped out holding an umbrella, looking just as radiant and bright as she always had. She glanced at the person behind me and gasped in fake surprise. Oh my, Sebastian, isn't this the reincarnated girl? Is she doing the crying in the rain dramatic trope now? Violet dramatically lowered her eyes, putting on a pitiful act. Sebastian, I might not have a broken family or supernatural powers, but I know how to play the victim too. Let me act out a scene for you right now. I smiled, pulling her into my arms. Let's just go home, fiancé. The rain poured heavily as the Maybach glided away. Chloe stood frozen in the downpour, eventually disappearing at the end of the illuminated street. This lifetime has finally reached its conclusion. The black card I had impulsively pushed away that day ended up becoming the most magical string of fate tying Violet and me together. I chuckled and rubbed Violet's head. You don't need to play the victim trope. The leading role has been yours from the very beginning. Epilogue. Chloe's perspective. I found out about Sebastian's wedding from a trending news article online. At the time, I was huddled in a cramped, 150-square-foot rented attic room. Empty takeout boxes and cheap soda bottles were piled high around megabitch food I wouldn't have even glanced at in my past life, now my daily sustenance just to stay alive. Sebastian's brilliant smile suddenly flashed across my cracked phone screen. He still had the arrogant, commanding presence of the Sebastian family heir. Every movement radiated aristocratic grace and an undeniable confidence. The headline clearly stated he was marrying the Vu family heiress, and that their family's second major collaborative project was about to launch on the stock market. I stared at Sebastian's smile until I went numb. The class divide between us was an insurmountable canyon. A watch he casually bought cost more than what I could save working manual labor for 10 years. On the streets of this city, the chances of our paths crossing again were basically zero. The most despairing part was that the only way I could get updates on his life was through public financial news. During these years since my reincarnation, it wasn't that I hadn't tried to start a business again. I sought out the executives I had successfully collaborated with in my past life. Every single one of them coldly rejected me. Only one man, after listening to me swear I could make him millions, smiled meaningfully and handed me a card. Miss Chloe. Anyone could make money with this idea. Even a blind man could tell your business plan is completely amateur. The only reason it worked before was because you had a massive corporation backing you. In that moment, I experienced a brutal awakening. My success in my past life wasn't because I was smart. I wasn't a business genius. It was because I had the Sebastian family protecting me. It was Sebastian paving the road for me behind the scenes, forcing everyone to treat me with utmost respect. And what did I do back then? I acted like a defensive porcupine, using sharp spikes to hide my crippling inferiority complex. All those years I thought I was enduring his arrogant temper. He was actually carefully tiptoeing around me, protecting my fragile ego. I looked at the news of his wedding one last time. A crazy idea sparked in my mind. I want to crash his wedding. The thought made my blood boil. Maybe he would suddenly remember me. Maybe he'd suddenly realize he loved me. Maybe we could go back to the deep love we shared in our past life. My car sped down the highway. It was a beat-up second-hand car I bought for $3,000 by starving myself for a year. It was a far cry from the Maybach I drove in my past life. The image of the Maybach flashed in my mind and my heart suddenly clenched. Why did this scene feel so identical to my past life? In my past life, I was standing on the balcony of the Sebastian mansion, finding out from a group chat that Ethan was getting married. I went crazy, acting on pure impulse. I slammed the gas pedal of the Maybach. My mind filled with one single thought: stop Ethan's wedding. I instinctively glanced at the date on the dashboard. March 18th. The day Ethan got married in my past life was the exact same day Sebastian was getting married in this life. In that split second, my blood ran cold. A momentary distraction was all it took. The car veered off the lane and slammed violently into the guardrail. Just before I lost consciousness, a satisfied smile crept onto my face. If I get to reincarnate back to being 18 again. The very first second I open my eyes, I will take that black card. I will hold on to him tightly. When he asks me to be his girlfriend, I will scream at the top of my lungs, "Sebastian, I do." I woke up again. The first things that hit me were a blinding white ceiling and the overpowering smell of antiseptics. I frantically sat up, No, Sebastian, no college campus. I grabbed the white coat of a passing doctor and screamed hysterically. Did I reincarnate? What year is it? The doctor looked at me with a complicated expression. He turned to the nurse behind him. Take her for another CT scan. The impact of the steering wheel likely caused a hematoma compressing her nerves, resulting in cognitive delusions. On the reflection of the stainless steel medical equipment, I saw my face. Still young, but utterly ravaged by exhaustion and poverty. I was just a penniless broken Chloe. Despair washed over me. I picked up my phone with its shattered screen. Sebastian's wedding was taking the internet by storm. People were buzzing about the extravagant wedding of the century, noting how every single detail screamed unlimited budget. What people admired even more was that within this alliance of billionaires there was genuine true love. During his years studying abroad, Sebastian flew to Europe twice a month just to see his fiancée. A massive stack of plane tickets had been posted online, the ultimate proof of their romance. I numbly dropped my phone. Sebastian is married. Ethan is Marito, the exact same girl from the past life. I'm the only one left behind, stuck in the same place, completely lost. On the day I was discharged, I ran into Sebastian at the hospital. He was wearing a dark, incredibly expensive suit, carefully supporting Violet by the arm, protectively shielding her slightly swelling belly. Even in a crowded hospital, he was so handsome he practically glowed. Leaning on my crutches, I dastardly chased after him, screaming, "Sebastian, turn around!" I didn't dare to blink, waiting for his reaction. His gaze landed on me for a single second. A brief flash of confusion crossed his eyes, as if trying to recall something, before he simply turned away. He didn't recognize me. The 6 years of passionate love we shared, the 6 years I relied on his money to stand in high society, I am the only person left in the world who remembers it. This is where it truly ends.